combined the spirituality with the Bible during that time. And that's what I really loved about her presentation.
You know, you said you hit it right on the nose. She's an ordained minister and was able to move into the spirituality realm of things, but move them so close together that we didn't know the difference.
Exactly.
You know, people will say, well, don't have pastors on there because they're not spiritual. They just in the religion. No, that's not true.
No.
It's a ton of pastors that understand both sides of religion and spirituality, and they know how and where they intersect, Chereska.
And absolutely, you know, the terms are maybe different in different situations, the manifestation, you know, different terms that are used in spirituality, but still the Bible really talks about the same thing. It really does. So,
It does.
Which is really cool. And the gift of healing, that whole thing was phenomenal. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I want her to come back, Jason. We need to bring her back again.
We're going to bring her back. But you know what? You know, people ask me, well, where are y'all going with this? You know, what's next for the show? We don't know. This show is led by the spirits, by God. I mean, we want to cover topics. We want people to feel comfortable with speaking about or understanding different aspects of their spirituality. But we bring people on the show to share their experiences. But then we want the viewers to pick something from it and try to incorporate it into your walk and into your day. So we're just trying to bring different interesting topics and or interesting people to the front, you know, so that we can kind of pick that thing apart and we can all learn together. What were you about to say, Chereska?
Well, I was thinking it's one of the best ways to put this. We're trying to answer your questions.
Yes.
You know, the questions that you have, we're trying to answer them in whatever way, in form or fashion. I know people have many different questions about this area, and we're seeking to hear from the Spirit to answer those questions.
Well, Dr. Anise Mastin, this young lady is wired to connect. She's really, really, really an interesting person. We spent some time on the phone, and I've gotten to know her, and just a very, very intelligent, fabulous leader. I'm gonna, you know, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started with Dr. Mastin. I'll read her bio right here. Dr. Mastin is a strategic partner driving growth and positive disruption with 15 years of senior leadership across IT, fintech, telecom, and healthcare for notable brands, leveraging a BBA and an MBA degree. Anise was licensed as a minister during 2011 and is ordained as an elder during 2019. Those years of serving along with her doctorate in ministry, she continues to enable. It continues to enable her zest to learn, empowering women to embrace themselves as more and function in their spiritual purpose. Okay, we're going to bring on Dr. Anise Mastin without any further ado. Dr. Anise, there she is. How you doing this? How you doing this evening?
I'm wonderful, thank you. How are you doing, Chereska and Jason?
All right.
You doing all right? Well, I'm doing. I'm not going to say mine as long. I'm doing fine. I'm happy that you're on the show. I know that this has been a while because we originally connected, and you were watching the show, and we connected, and we started to talk and collaborate, and it took us a while. And I think that God wanted us to continue to put our ideas together so that we could give the best to our audience. And I know that you are multifaceted, you're multi-talented. But I'm gonna start it off with, you know, you've done a lot, you've accomplished a lot in your career. Can you tell us a little bit about you? I'm gonna start with you first, to just kind of dig down and you know, what got you moving in the direction you're moving in right now.
So, thank you. That's a great question. As you noticed from the title of this podcast, Wired to Connect, I truly believe who I am is not about my titles or my accolades. I believe those are byproducts that have been produced because of who I am. I actually want to state for the audience that we have to remember that we are spiritual beings housed in this vessel. I'm going to say that again. We are spiritual beings housed in this physical vessel. But we get so attuned to our five senses, taste, touch, smell, that we are readily understanding our experiences that way. And sometimes we don't tap into that spirituality that's already there. And so you guys did a wonderful opener for Pastor Goins, and I listened to her show. There are actually 9 spiritual gifts. And perhaps we'll have her back because 3 are about the revelation. She covered that. 3 are about power, and 3 give utterance. They speak. And as we get to know ourselves, when I was a young girl, I was having some spiritual awakenings, but I didn't know it. It didn't come to me till after I grew up and became more aware. And I think I mentioned to you, Jason, I thought I was just being smart.
You did.
I thought I had these divine revelations. God would just drop knowing, operating the gift of the word of knowledge and in my spirit, but no one had taught me what to do with them. And I have to admit that I likely misused it. And then when you pair that with the gift of the word of wisdom, where he is giving you instruction to share with someone what that divine dropping was, and your discernment of spirit, that's when it becomes more powerful. But I didn't learn all of that. And many of your guests might feel the same way, that there's just been something there, but I can't put all the puzzle pieces together. So I want to reassure them that it's a journey.
So
go ahead.
No. I didn't want to interrupt, but you said something that was very interesting. So you were a young girl. Yep. And that's when you kind of realized that you were awakened to have spiritual awareness. So what did that feel like? You're like, okay, so is it one day you're just kind of tooling around, your mom has you cleaning up, and then someone says, "Hey, Anise, it's happening to you right now." So what was it a feeling? Was it a dream? How did you know that I think I'm building a special type of awareness?
So I would describe it as a combination of a feeling as well as I'm a seer as well.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Seers operate in different ways. Now, I don't have long visions like cinema movies. I get flashes.
Yes.
Flashes of pictures. And a lot of times I see them and then it happens later.
Yes.
So I didn't know what that was about. But it just dropped and it activated on its own. I have to say, I don't think I did anything activated. That spiritual core of me was already there. So I believe God chooses when to activate it or make us aware. And that's why I say wired to connect. He's always reaching for us. We just need to reach back. That spirit is there to connect to the originator. I'll put it like that.
I like that. And, sometimes, like for me, they used to come, my messages, they used to come in a dream. Now they come through my subconscious. My subconscious is always talking to me. Read this book. Okay. When you get done with this book, read that book. Okay. Now you're getting ready to start a show. Okay. So it's almost like I'm talking to me, but I know that my conscience is beamed in from somewhere else. I'm not that smart. So that's how I am connecting with my messages. And I, from what I've studied and from what we've had people on the show, is that when you quieten yourself, you can hear. The more you do the hustle and bustle every day, it's hard for you to hear. So I won't interrupt you. I just let you keep going.
That's important too, because I think sometimes, as you say, we get in the hustle bustle of life. We don't know how to just quiet ourselves. We don't know how to empty ourselves. And sometimes I think it was your sister Tosca or someone loved to be near the water. That made them feel peace. Some people feel the peace when they are outside and on the ground. So we have to understand how we're wired, and that raises our spirituality or the vibrations of our connections in the spirit.
Absolutely.
That's what's important about it.
And for the record, Tereska, everybody gives all of your, fantastic gifts to Tosca. Tereska's like, no, that was me. That wasn't her.
That's right. It's okay. I'm good. And
I want people to also understand that it won't, sometimes for us, we're not just one way. I have been a seer. I've seen dreams. I have the gift of operating the gift of the word of knowledge and wisdom. So be open and free and don't rationalize it away. Like Jason, you just mentioned, you feel like you're talking to yourself, but you know that's a prompting.
Mm-hmm.
You know when it's a divine spiritual prompting versus you talking to yourself. You can tell the difference. You know what I'm saying? Even though you said, well, go read this, go read that. You can tell when that unction or that prompting is coming from a divine presence.
Oh, we got unction. We got unction again. Tosca used that last week. You know, Dr. Mastin, it's interesting that you just brought that little topic up, you know, that I kind of know that, you know, I can tell the difference. But let's just talk to the audience about how can you tell the difference? You know, when do you know God is speaking to you? And here's a little tip that you can do. And especially in meditation, when you're praying, meditating, dreaming, either of the above, use this technique. You draw a line in the middle of the paper and you think about when you have done the meditation or you finish your prayer or you're dreaming, all the things that were the natural, the human type things that you thought about, prayed about, that crept into your mind, or when you were dreaming, write that on one side of the paper. On the other side of the paper, write the things that were just simply felt like love to you. You write those on the other side of the paper. And you do this consistently and you title, this is my dream. This is when I was praying. This is what I saw, heard the visions. After a week, 2, 3 weeks, Dr. Mastin, it becomes a pattern of information. You're able to kind of discern, oh, when I'm quieter, I'm writing a lot of the love things. Okay, and now I can decipher what the messages are. So I learned that from my instructor on how to tell when God is talking to me. And I think that's a good tip.
Thank you for that. And, you know, that comes up, the love and the light comes up a lot in the podcast that you're having here. And I think that should serve as no surprise because we originated from a being that was about at the core of love.
Yes.
There's even a book written by Dr. Caroline Leaf for those who wants to go on the more scientific side. The name of the book is Who Switched Off My Brain? And in this book, she's trying to help us all to conquer having toxic and negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
She took her background in neurology to actually prove how the brain is wired to love. She saw that when subjects have constant toxic thoughts or negative thoughts, it actually creates like this big black haunted tree in the brain. And then she did experiments. She could pick it up on some kind of sonar or radar or whatever it's called. She did experiments by helping them to rid themselves of toxic thoughts and negative thoughts. And there was a wash that would go over the brain, and it started washing that big haunted looking black tree away. And she's proved with her book that we are wired to love. And when we deviate from that, how it affects our body, it kind of goes back to the wellness a few weeks ago. So we can take science, or we can take spirituality, Christianity, or whatever your belief is, and bring it together, and it all will mesh with the spirit core of who we are.
Well, there's a lot of science that they do a lot of research on, and a lot of that leaves these scientists puzzled. You know, what's happening here? But what they do is they can bring you a scientific scientifically driven information that gives a response to it. But that's only for this human avatar, this human vessel that we have. They can give you why it did it and this is the result. But when you get into quantum physics and when you start to try to understand consciousness, you know, that's when it gets tricky. Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza, they talk about how consciousness is used to rewrite RNA, how you can use consciousness to change the effect of an injury that you may have, or you can use it to rid a disease. Now, you're using your conscience to move disease out of your body. But scientifically, they're saying, well, yeah, it can be done. But we do know that these type of miracles or these type of healings are done by spirits, by God. And when you're able to tap into that level of frequency, you're able to access that information and you're able to understand how to do these things. So I'm on board with scientific theory and the discovery of what science brings to us, but it all leads back to our spirituality in some fashion or way. But I think it's important to look at all of them. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%.
But in that as well, it takes that belief. And no matter which modality you move, you have to believe that it's possible. Because if
you took the words right out of my mouth, I was just getting ready to, as you were saying, I was thinking belief is the word. Yeah.
Belief. Because if you have fear, and I was actually looking up, and there's 6 levels of fear that we contend with. But if you have that belief and we get to that place where we quiet ourselves, where we believe, we get rid of the doubt, get rid of distractions, as you kind of talked earlier, then we can get to those spiritual core vibrations and become one with them because they're there. We just have to become in tune with them. And over time, like none of us have arrived. We're going to learn new things as we continue to learn, as we continue to grow. Like I started learning when I was at 9. That was when I first became spiritually aware. And I had been taught, as many of us have, going to church and praying and all of that. But I noticed when I prayed or got into a worship moment that the presence around me became, the only way I can describe it is very pure. And when it was so pure, sometimes I couldn't speak or move.
Wow.
Well, all I could do was just cry. It's like I was being healed and I was being comforted and I was being trained. It's like so many things was going on at once. All I could do was cry. So no one had taught me what that was all about, but I now understand that the spiritual vibrations were lifting or getting higher to give a better spiritual connection to, I believe, the originator, our God. So, and that started at 9, but I didn't realize it until I became around in my 20s. That was what was going on. So I believe that people who are attracted to your show, that they are already on a journey. Wow. And they're attracted to this show because something inside of them resonates with what you're doing. From channeling to meditation to law of attraction to the gifts of the spirit, each time they're getting an aha moment. And it's like puzzle pieces. We're each taking a step. And each time we learn a new puzzle piece, it becomes stronger to us that I've just got to keep believing and taking a step. That's the important part for Wired to Connect. We are wired. We're spiritual beings wired to take this spiritual journey.
So we're talking about Wired to Connect, and let me do a reset. You're listening to Woke. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and Tereska Harrison is my contributor. And tonight we have Dr. Anise Mastin, and we are talking about Wired to Connect. But in your 20s, when you figured out, okay, I've experienced a spiritual awakening. Now I really know it's a spiritual awakening, and I'm moving through life. And you were, headed on a tremendous path, academician path, and then in the ministry. Can you unpack that for us and kind of let us know how and what led you to the ministry and then ultimately in corporate America?
Yeah, so actually my journey wasn't typical. Actually, fresh out of high school, I became a married woman and started having children. And unfortunately, my husband died. He succumbed to a on-the-job accident. And getting through that was really horrendous for me because it was creating a new normal. And part of me just didn't even want to continue to go on, but I had children. So my children made me get up each morning and know that I had to go on for them. It was such a big shock to my system that I had to learn a new way to just believe. Yes. And that there was a reason that I was still here. So in my 20s, my awakening was about going to church one day, and I found out that you could lay hands and heal people.
All right.
And I didn't doubt it. And so I started laying hands, and people start being healed. And I kept thinking, well, I'm just a vessel. I'm not doing it. There's a higher power that's doing it. So as I kept going on, we have to be careful what we allow in our, what I call gates. Our eyes are gates to let things into our spirit, our mouth, our ears, There are things that come in and touch our gates. And there was an individual in my family that meant a lot to me when I was in my 30s, and they said something so mean and negative to me. It stopped me from laying hands. I thought, well, I can't keep doing that. And it stopped me. It made me question. And that was the wrong thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I'm just giving an example that this process, we can go through traumas, we can go through awakenings, and it's still all part of the puzzle piece because we're wired to do these things. So just one quick story. My daughter had this condition where she was growing so fast, her knees would get dislocated and she would fall. And I'd take her to all these doctors. They were saying, even though she was 15, she was going to have this surgery. And at 15, if you have this surgery, she was going to have it redone again at 30. It just didn't sound good. And I remember saying, well, God, you said that you'll heal us if we believe and lay hands. And so I laid hands on her. And of course, she didn't believe. She went to school with her crutches and stuff. And the thing happened. She would just fall on the floor and her knee would give out. She went in the bathroom and she said, okay, God, Mama prayed over me. If you're really real, then show yourself. And then before her eyes, her knees started going down. And she stood up and she started walking. And when she came home that afternoon, she had her crutches in her hands, walking, and she hadn't been able to walk for weeks. So that was an instantaneous healing because she allowed her mind to believe in what the Spirit would do when she believed in that prayer over her.
Belief is huge in any type of manifestation. You said that a minute ago.
At any age.
Yes, at any age.
And at any age. I had a daughter. My daughter was, I think she may have been 4, maybe 5. And we were driving across a bridge and my car stopped. It was getting hot. It was acting crazy. And I was telling Demi. But prior to that, she had a pacifier. This is funny. Prior to that, she was addicted to the pacifier. And I told her that we lost the pacifier. And, she was fiending all that night. Like, I'm telling you, like she was on drugs and needed that pacifier. And we prayed, and she was so into the prayer. And when she went to sleep and woke up, then, she was fine and talking around. I said, Demi, God healed you of your, that pacifier. You don't want it anymore. And her eyes got so big and she was elated. She couldn't believe it. So fast forward to the car incident, and she's like 4 or 5, something like that. And I told her, Demi, we have to pray to God because this car is not stopping in a good place. And it was really going hot. It was really stopping, y'all. And she said, Mommy, give me that Bible. And, she was in the back in her car seat. And I gave her the Bible, and she just began to do her job or prayer or whatever. But the belief level, what you said, that level of belief and that vibration that she entered into, the car started up. Let me just tell you, the car started.
Wow.
And we were able to get to the gas station.
Wow.
But that when you go through that one belief, and I know after this, your daughter just knows. She knows that she knows. When you get to that point, that level of belief can raise that vibration to where it needs to be.
I started laying hands on ovens and jacuzzis and everything. But you make a great point how you can see this occurring with family members. Yeah. And I just think it's important to also point out that in this process, we're all taking steps. None of us have arrived. None of us are accomplished. We're all learning. That there's an interesting thing I think we need to do, be, and see. And what do I mean by that? Some of us get so caught up in, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And so if your audience is actually in a safe place and just somewhere that they can pick something up in their hand, I'm going to put my glasses in my hand. And I'm going to ask the audience, if they're in a safe place, not driving, to put something in their hand. And now that they've got something in their hands, I want them to try to pick it up out of their hand. Were you able to pick it up? Did you try? No, you didn't do it. So wait a minute, let's do it again. I want you to try to pick the object up out of your hand. Did you pick it up? See, what you did was you did it. You picked it up. Trying, you would have been going all around it and you couldn't do. And so we need to understand that our speaking of try, sometimes that get in our spirits and it helps us, it hinders us from accomplishing. Have a do mindset. Now, when it comes to being, there is a core purpose or reason for being here. And we need to get connected sometimes to that core spirituality to understand it. I believe Jason is walking it in his. I believe Tereska is walking in hers. And I was so afraid at 19 when I heard I'm here for a special reason. I was like, oh my God, what if God doesn't say? You know, I was just afraid to ask. And then I calmed myself here again, get rid of the fear. And I just said, God, show me my purpose. And I fell asleep. And when I woke up, remember, I functioned in the gift of knowledge. It had dropped in my spirit. You're a solution provider.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. I was like, that's so great, because every time I solve problems, it's like it feeds me and I get energetic and all of that. But that was just the first layer. That was the first layer. He piled up on that when I was at a CEO conference, and they had us looking at these sheets of words, and they said, pick out 3. It was like a sheet of 50 words. And they said, you're going to know the 3 because when you read the word, it's going to resonate with your spirit. So I picked out embody, inspire, and restore. But I didn't know why those spoke to me. Then they gave us another sheet. They said, pick out one more word. Don't worry about it. Just pick out a word that speaks to you. I picked out the word excellence. And they said, we want you to put those 4 words together. So mine end up being embody, inspire, and restore excellence. And they said, that's part of your mission on this earth.
Wow.
But when I was reading it felt like me, but it felt like it was incomplete. So I remember praying to God, and then he gave me 2 words to add to the end. And I went to people who knew me, and they said, that's you. Oh my God, that's you. So it turned out being, I embody, inspire, and restore excellence through truth and wisdom. That's my purpose, right? So I think I'm done, right? That's enough. Just last year, well, the beginning of this year, I walk and I meditate and I speak to God, and God was talking to me. And you know, a few years ago, this mantra started where women would say, I am enough. You remember that, Tereska? I am enough.
Yes.
It never resonated with me, and I kept thinking, why? And so God revealed to me when I was walking, you are more. And I thought, more? Why am I more? So he led me to go look up the word enough in the dictionary. Enough means adequate. I thought, yeah, that doesn't resonate with me. And then he made me understand that by being more, everything he puts in my charge, I multiply it, I increase it, I grow. That's what he means by more. So part of my charge, even if women have to start at enough, because some of us have been so traumatized and beaten down, just to be able to say I'm enough, that is a step. So I applaud everyone that can say that. But I say there will be a point to grow from enough, because you're more than adequate. You're more than that situation or circumstance that came against you. You're more than the names that people have called you. You're more than how your teachers jeered you or your students didn't accept you. You are more. And if they can just get that resonating in them, even God says you're more than a conqueror. So when we see ourselves more, then we can see how when things come against us, how our spirit man can or person can rise us up above it and not focus on the problem. Because when anything you focus on the most gets bigger. If I put a rock in front of my face, and I'm doing this on purpose, I can see only that rock. That's all I can see. But if I put the rock down on the ground, then I can see how to step over that rock. So we have to know how to focus on the solution versus the problem. And then that more of who you are rises up. You can't hear that when you're looking at the problem so hard. That's all you can see.
Well, I love it too. But Dr. Mastin, there was one thing you said that really resonated with me, and it's when people like those glasses in your hand. Pick the glasses up. Did you do it? And I have a lot of friends that want to do, and it's right in front of them, but they'll walk all the way around it, and they'll talk about it all the time about what they want to do. Is there some kind of, I don't know, is that something that's in the person's intent? Is there something that people that do find themselves sort of stuck and can't quite move to that next step, but they have good intentions and they want to do it.
Well, so you bring up, I've got to put my little glasses on. I wrote a little list here. I think those people that get stuck, it's all about those 6 basic fears. I'm just going to read that list.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
We deal with 6 basic fears, and that's the fear of criticism, fear of sickness, fear of aging, fear of losing love, fear of poverty, and fear of death. So oftentimes when people get to, I want to do it, I want to try it, they have a fear of the failure, the criticism they'll get if they fail. They'll have a fear of, man, if I don't do it, it'll just be the end of life. What they don't understand, if they do it and it didn't turn out as they spit, they learn something. So the next time when they try it again, they'll get a little bit further. So it's about operating that muscle of excellence. That's not perfection. It's excellence, because sometimes we move in the mediocre. Well, I'm going to give just enough. But when we operate to everything we put our hands to do the best, we bring excellence in our life to where everything we do is in excellence. And that vibration can get so high that, Jason, I think I told you about this. I walked in a room once. It was a gathering for the National Black MBA for my school, Vanderbilt University. And when I walked in the room, there were about 100 people there. Now, I thought I'm walking in just being ready to meet people. The entire room turned and stared at me.
You felt that.
I thought, oh. I nodded my head and I walked over to someone so that I could quickly do something. I said, "No, God, if you're going to have a whole room turn around and look at me, you're going to have to let me know what to do with that." Right. But it was the energy I brought into the room. And a woman told me, she said, "Anise, when you walk in the room, you make people want to straighten their back. Does that go to excellence?" She said, "When you walk in the room, you change the atmosphere." I didn't know that. When I walk in the room, I'm walking in with me. I don't know what the atmosphere is like that. So it's me. When people are talking to me, thinking, okay, God, what are we doing here? I'm still asking him questions. Yeah. So we went through do and we went through B. I want to hit C. And I'm not going to hit C in a spooky manner. I'm going to be very practical. I'm going to use an everyday situation. And guys, I get sentimental sometimes, so excuse me if I get choked up. But, we're going to keep it moving. My daughter. She's a grown woman now, and she went to a dermatologist just last week. And the holding area wasn't that full, so she found a little seat waiting for her name to be called. Now, for people who listen to this podcast and can't see us, I'm African American, and so my daughter's African American. There was an older Caucasian woman who came in the door. She looked around, signed in, and then she went and sat in a seat right next to my daughter. My daughter thought, what the? We living in a pandemic. Why is she sitting right beside me? So my daughter got ready to move her seat over. And as she put her hand out to move her seat, the woman put her hand over it and said, "Please." She said, "I'm so lonely." She said, "Ever since the pandemic, my daughter and her husband, my grandchildren have not been able to visit me." She said, "Can you just sit here and give an old woman some company? Because when I came in the room, your spirit looked like my daughter's."
Oh, wow.
Now she's opening up my daughter to see not a woman that's bothering her, but a woman that simply
needs her. Oh, my gosh.
And so they sit there, they exchange names, didn't talk much. But when my daughter's name was called, she looked at the woman. She said, "Well, I hope your daughter can visit you soon." She said, "You have given an old woman much needed love today." And that just, when she told me that story, I was like, I was proud of my daughter, right? But the older woman could see in the spirit, there's a spirit in her that's like my daughter's. And then my daughter was receiving to see back, she just needs person love. So we have to live a life of seeing and not being so in the hustle and bustle that we don't see the circumstances around us. That sometimes there are people that need us. And sometimes we can even go and just give a word because we heard it, Jason.
Yes.
We heard it sound like ourselves. And we'll go say it to the person, and the person will cry and go, "Oh my God told you that, because I haven't told that to anyone." Right?
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
let's get to the social media. Tosca Medlock Lee, that's my other sister. She kind of likes to be on. She likes to chime in through chat. Then she'll be on the show sometimes. So we just let her do what she wants to do. But she says, "Wow, that's so real. Fear of failure is big, Dr. Anise. It's really big."
Really big.
and life a lifelong life a life of sin. Live a life of sin. And when you said see, I see. I have this little mantra that I say all the time: those who will see, those who will hear. And when I give information to people, and maybe the very next day someone may say, well, they just asking you that because they're just trying to, for whatever reason, not a genuine reason. And I just say to them, well, those who see will see, those who hear will hear. I'm just going to give the information. And you said that I forgot what you said that you were when you found out what type of spiritual being you were. But I was told that I was a connector. And I was told that at one of Tereska's vision board parties, okay, that I was a connector. And I was a what was that, Tereska? What else was
Warrior.
that?
You were definitely a warrior. It had to do with a warrior.
Yeah,
One that,
warrior,
something like that.
and a connector. So I really think that everybody does have their purpose, and people kind of live in their purpose, but we have to have great intent. We have to keep love in our heart, and we have to have light infused in our bodies. And they hear us say that every week. And what does that mean? Light infused in your body. It's you thinking that your body is full of light. It's the intent of the light filling my body.
Yes.
It's the love that I am saying I'm full of. You have to command it within yourself. That's how you do it. You command it, you live in it. And, the rest would be history.
You're choosing it. You're choosing to allow your brain to live in gratitude. You're choosing to allow your brain to be positive.
Mm-hmm.
And you're choosing that if something negative tries to come, that you don't have to soak it in. You don't have to let it sow into you. You're choosing a life where you can be satisfied in gratitude, and love and life is always there, right? Because you can be in a most difficult turmoil, but when you're living that life of gratitude and light and love, there's a peace that resides that no one can take it away, because happiness happens with happy means, right? Mm-hmm. Happiness is tied to something that happened. But joy is a place that resonates from the core of your spirit. No one can take that joy away when it's resident in your spirit. And Jason, I would say in your warrior spirituality, right now you're crafting a new blueprint. I said this to you before the show. I said, because you're a normal looking guy. You don't look like you're a weird guy doing weird things in the basement. And you're giving spirituality a voice. A male is giving spirituality a voice. Tereska, what do we see when we go to church? Mostly women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mostly women. And now we've got a Jason who's, successful in his career, but he is saying, let me shake off this stuff. I feel like I want to give people an avenue to learn what I'm learning. And so in your warrior, you're also this leader who's not afraid that people might say things that are not so nice. You just know that you're supposed to be doing that. And as you do this, I believe more doors in your mind of your spirituality is going to open up, and you're going to understand even more about yourself.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. My thing is, when you open up and when you allow yourself. Now, one thing I want to, let me just back to just a little bit to the do, be, and see, those basic goals that you can do, or the basic things you can do on a daily basis to get you where you can moving towards spirituality and really connecting. The doing and the being are the basic things, and then the seeing part is what caught me. The seeing, to be able to see, is, and we talk about choices. So to be able to see, you have to know what you're looking for, right? In order to know, and you can't choose until you know how to choose. You know what I mean? And so the B part is connected to the C, I feel, because you have to be in order to know what it is you see. You got to see what is in yourself. First of all, you got to see who you are before you can see anybody else. And I'm a proponent of knowing and healing and dealing with your own self before you can move outward to help anybody else. So for me, that do B and C is all intentional for myself, for yourself, because that is a great way, a basic way to grow into your spirituality and to grow into your spirit man, who you are,
But
and your spirit man is.
Dr. Mastin, let's get to some of the guests because people are chiming in. They want to hear from you. Okay, this is Faison Wolford. She says, also the fear of rejection causes me to move. I can move with purpose once I'm silent of fear. Do you have anything to say to that? Yeah.
Rejection.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So she's given the powerful message. She has to first silence fear, because fear will hinder that spirit, hinder that power, hinder the flight of love and light. Because fear is kind of an opposite, right? It's I mentioned it before. It's one of the hindrances. No matter which modality you choose, if fear is there, it will just what we call quench the spirit, where you can't really hear and connect to it as well as you should. So we have to get rid of fear. And Tereska, you said something really important about you got to know who you are. Identity directs your decisions.
Yes.
I'm going to say that again.
Absolutely. Say it again.
Come on, Doc.
Say it again.
I'm going to give a very small example. If you, I, and Jason are standing on a corner, and guess I want you to put yourself on the corner with us. We're just sitting there talking, and all of a sudden we see a house on the side of the street that's on fire. A young man walks up. He's been trained as a first responder, as a fireman. He identifies with being a first responder. So his identity directs him to run towards the fire. As we are standing there, we're not trained. We don't identify with that. So we move away and call 911. That identification as fireman, first responder, gave him actions and power to do something where we didn't have it. So we have our identity, true identity, not just labels. And I give this one exercise. Strip all your labels away. And don't be mad at me. Even strip away mama, daddy, all labels. Who are you?
Yes.
Who are you? If you're not calling yourself father, that's an important thing. Mother, that's an important thing. But strip that away so you can just see you. Who are you? Because when you were born, you were a daughter, a sister, auntie. You were put labels on when you got here. So we got used to operating in the labels. Then I got to do, I'm doctor. But those are byproducts of who I am. Do an exercise where you strip all of the labels away. And what words does God bring to your mind?
Say that one more time. Say it one more time, Doc, please.
I'm saying strip all the labels away that you have been accustomed to that make you comfortable. Get comfortable feeling unfamiliar and go, who am I? Get a pad and piece of paper. And as the names, the adjectives start coming to your mind, write them down. And after you finish, see what you have. You're going to get a one step closer to understanding your identity.
Also, I hear strip labels away or strip vices away.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because I just, recently I finished a channeling course, and for any of it to work, for any of the things that my instructor was teaching me about channeling, I had to strip all vices away before anything worked, because God wants your vessel to be clear of any sort of inhibiting, rival beef you have with your sister and your auntie, and you mad at this person and that person, and you just have to let go. And that's the same with what you're talking about. It transcends across all modalities. And that's why we preach it. And people may say, well, they talked about that last week. We're going to be talking about this for as long as we do this show. And this will never change.
And the other thing you can talk about, Jason, also is the spiritual healing. You got to heal. There is healing that needs to take place in our personal, in the things we are walking life, the things that damaged us throughout our life.
Yes.
there's a healing that needs to take place. So
Yes. Let's get to our social media. Again, you're listening to Unwoke. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and our contributor, Tereska Hairston Medlock. And also we have the wonderful Dr. Anise Mastin. Tosca says there is a common African proverb used in greeting one another, and that is, I see you. And the person returns the greeting by saying, I see you too. So, Dr. Anise, that kind of correlates to, you being a seer. And I think that Tosca just kind of said, let me throw this out there and arouse Dr. A's, attention on that.
And remember, our words have spirit in them. They're powerful.
Yes.
yeah.
So, if people question it, sometimes remember if someone has said something to you, you go, that was mean-spirited. You automatically knew they came from a mean place. Our words are so powerful. So that's how we have to be careful of what we said. But remember, everything starts with a thought. I think it first. And usually if I think it long enough and allow it to grow, then I start speaking it. Once I start speaking it, then it's written on my heart. Then when it starts writing on my heart, it's took root into my spirit.
Yes.
Now I'm creating habits that's setting who I am and my destiny. So we have to remember it simply started with a thought. Is that thought something you want to keep? And I'm going to use one scripture. It's in the Bible for those who read the Christian Bible. It's Deuteronomy 30 verses 19. I place before you life and death, blessings and cursing. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live. So you have a choice. And some people say, well, I didn't have a choice. When they say that, they're still making a choice. So what are we bringing life to in our choices? What are we bringing death to in our choices? If we're going to put death to something, put a death to the vices that clog up our spirit and we can't really connect, right? Put life. And most of the modalities is all about breathing life to another. So if you're getting some type of training and it's not about breathing life and doing good for other people and to other people, then find the trainings that actually breathe and sounds like our Creator. Love and life.
I want to know what classes are you teaching so I can sign up?
Absolutely.
Because you're on point right now, Doc. I'm just telling you, you're on point.
I want to say this one thing too. And
I want to sign up. Give me the coupon code so, I can get in there,
Yeah. Well, I usually teach classes and they're coming in the spring, so we can talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
But I want to also tell people that they can be brave enough not to lie to themselves. Every lie is bad, but lying to ourselves.
I love that.
Because who's going to check you, boo, if you don't check
Come on.
They're chiming in, Doc. Absolutely. And you got people saying obedience is important and it takes courage. But go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Take it to one more level. I'm going to take it to this little creature in the sea that's called an oyster. Mm-hmm. Do you know when an oyster gets a piece of feces or sand in its shell, it irritates the oyster. So what does it do? It covers it with this concentric material and covers it till it creates something really beautiful. Mm. But don't forget, at the middle of that pearl is a piece of you know what.
Right.
Now, bring that to us. Sometimes we will have done something and we will get convicted or feel bad about it, but then we'll cover it. Well, the only reason I did that was because they did this. Then we cover it again. Well, the only reason that we keep covering that thing versus getting rid of it till it becomes something beautiful. Now we've housed something in us that we have made beautiful, and all it was meant to do was expel it in the first time. Why are we acting like a created being, the oyster, versus the creator who created us? That's what it's about.
Wow.
Don't lie to yourself. You can face it. Yes. One thing at a time. You can't face 60 maybe, but one thing at a time. Make a plan for that one thing. Take a step for one thing. Evaluate it in 30 days. Were you intentional? Did you get to your goal? Okay, reevaluate it. Make another plan. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be elaborate. I gained 20 pounds during the COVID shut-in. And I set a goal to lose that 20 pounds, and I just couldn't do it. Then I had a friend who had to lose a lot more than that. And I thought, here I am complaining about 20 pounds. She inspired me. And now I'm 4 pounds away from my goal because I'm thinking, how can I sit here and complain and lie to myself? This is just too hard to do when this
Yes,
over
yes.
here has more than 100 pounds to lose, right? So really look at yourself and love yourself enough to tell yourself the truth. You're lying to yourself. You're liking what you're putting in your mouth, girl.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Love yourself to tell yourself the truth.
I
mean, come on now. Come on.
That's awesome. I love the idea that when it resonated with me, choosing life or choose death. And if you can, underneath life, put the positive things underneath there, like positivity, joy, choose peace, choose happiness, those things, life, and then death, or you choose fear. I mean, because when you say that, people think real dead, but you're choosing, when you choose death, you're choosing fear. You're choosing all those things that are holding you back. You're choosing doubt. All those things that are holding you back from being the person that God has called you to be. So that right there is my takeaway for sure for tonight. But besides the do, be, and see, that's me. I got that.
So
because those are they're very basic practical practices that we can do.
We don't
really
have to
achieve
be
a lot.
We have to talk rocket science. God wants us to get this. He's reaching.
Yeah.
He never stopped reaching for us. We just need to reach back for him.
That is awesome. Dr. Anise, I know that we could unpack a number of topics tonight, but I wanted to kind of get some of your final thoughts on just being wired to connect, because you hit a lot of different topics, and we've been pulling this whole the conglomerate of ideas that we put together on, you have to be wired to connect to these type things. And here's how you do it. Is there anything you can leave the audience with? But I also want you to talk about what you're doing. I know you do a lot of speaking engagements. I don't know what you have coming up on the uprising, but still, what can you give the audience, something to take home with, when you're trying to be wired, so that you can connect?
That's a great question. I want to keep it really simple, because I think in our minds, the fear comes in because we make it too complex and we think, I just can't, right? So first of all, I'd like to say to the audience, the very fact that you're listening to this podcast means that something in you has already awakened, okay? So accept that. Don't let any rationale come and say, well, no, not me. Yes, something in you has awakened. Once you realize that, let it resonate, let it settle. Next thing is understand that we're all just taking one step at a time to grow whatever modality we is, to get stronger in it. And I've tried many things, right? So over time, I've found the things that work for me, but find out who you are and the things that rises up your spiritual vibration. So first believe, then pay attention to who you are. Do you feel closer to God or to spiritual awareness when you're near the ocean? When you put your feet on the ground, because there's some connectivity there that's supposed to happen. Find out who you are. Take very basic steps and then gradually add to that. Once you take that step, there are other steps. But I just want your audience to understand, whether they're beginning or continuing, we'll never arrive. We're going to continue to add to this thing, and our wire to connect is going to get stronger and more specific as we connect to our spiritual being inside of us.
All right. Hey, okay. Now tell us about what do you have going on these days? Give us some more, because I mean, people may want to follow your social media or anything like that. So what do you have going on these days?
Well, I'm Dr. Anise on Twitter, and I did that because Joe Biden told us if we have that title, we should use it, and I have not been using my title.
Okay.
Because someone tried to take hers away. And then on the rest of the social medias, I'm Anise in action, because I believe that life is not a spectator sport. We got to get in there and make it happen. I'm writing a book not ready for release. I have 100 pages, and this is actually stimulating. I need 1 or 2 more chapters to finish it off, and so I'm happy to share that.
So will I be in it, or Tereska, or I mean, or you? I mean, we are your new friends.
If you guys give me permission to reference things, because I've learned things from you guys. I've went back, and I want your audience to understand that there's a common thread in your podcast. Even though you're topping many subjects, there's a common thread of the light and the love.
Yes.
There's a common thread of empty yourself of vices, empty yourself of fear. So it's all about getting connected to your core spirituality. And once they go back, or if they're listening, they'll go, that is true. I'm getting that every time. And then that'll start resonating, and they'll start acting upon it. What in me is maybe clogging me up? How can I get rid of distractions? They'll start looking at their lives and addressing those things.
Wow.
Oh,
well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. We want you to hang out. Well, I'm gonna put you in the back room, but we want you to hang out because I'm gonna read a beautiful abstract that you wrote, and I'll give you credit for it. But I want to thank you for coming on, Dr. Mastin, and just a beautiful conversation. You know, there are no special powers, or you're not floating in the air. But what a
great knowledge!
Yeah, what a
great
knowledge-filled, beautiful, well-constructed conversation we had. And really giving guidance and giving hope and mainly telling direction. Get up off the couch and stop dreaming about that. Just do it because it's easy.
Just do it.
Wow.
Step number 1.
Well, Dr. Mastin, hang out with us in the back, and Tereska and I, we're going to wrap this up, and we'll come back to you. But okay, sis, can you unpack this a little bit?
Thank her for coming. I'm so grateful for that information. It was so much, and it was so enlightening, especially for me, because when I look at that do, be, and see, that see thing, listen, see, like she unpacked it from a basic point of view, but you can go all over the place with see. You know, You look at people and say, I see you, but what do you see? You can see their physical being, or you can see their spirit man. You can see within them. You can see, those who see can see who you are. So I mean, it's a whole big thing, and to know that choosing life or choose death. So within that, we got the life part is all the positive, the high vibrations, the joy, all the peace, all the things that the good fruit of God, the good things that we can get from God. And then choosing death is really the fear, and then the laziness or lackadaisical thing, or just wanting to speak, constantly saying what you want to do and never accomplishing those things. Right. That's all the death part. That says that you just want to die because you're not moving into action. And I love the fact that her basis is about moving into action. There are some steps and some basic steps that you can take to get to your goals, and they're very basic. Do, be, and then see. Period. And once you see, then you can make the decision. Then you can choose better. You can make the decision on improving and growing. So that's basically what
those who can see will see. Those who hear will hear. Well, can we just really narrow that down? Well, someone walked in the room, and it was a person that was going to give you that next job, but you didn't see it. You sat there on your cell phone the whole time. It could be as simple as that. There was a conversation happening on the elevator. The lady who was going to connect you to the person who could give you a discount on your car was talking in the elevator, but you didn't hear because you're not connected. You have to be connected to see. You have to be connected to hear. And to get connected, that means to move more light and love into your body and slow things down and start to pay attention to everything. Your feelings.
To connect with God.
To connect your feelings, things that are being said to you that you think is your own smart subconscious. It's not you. It's your subconscious. But you have to be quiet enough not to direct your subconscious, but to just let it happen. And you practice and you practice and you practice. And all of a sudden, you're able to hear. All of a sudden, you're able to see. So Tereska, I'm excited about it, but I'm going to put you in the back room as well. I'm going to go ahead and close this thing out, and we'll come back. Betsy says, this was great. It's lots of takeaways. She wants to thank you, Dr. Anise. So that was from Beth. Okay. So, Tereska, this is great. I want you to hang out with me back here for a second, and we're going to close this thing out. Thank you, audience, for hanging in there with us. And I want to close with just an abstract from Dr. Anise. And, it goes like this. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Again, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We are first and foremost spirit, made in the image of the infinite God, who is spirit. Over the years, we've become more attuned to experiences granted through our human senses: taste, touch, smell, sight, hear, while oftentimes have failed to remain attuned to our core spiritual self. What does that mean? As we begin or continue our spiritual journey to be woke, embrace the freedom to tap into your core purpose, your reason for being, by realizing the significance of how you are significantly spiritually wired. Just like no two snowflakes will ever be the same, each of us are spiritually wired to connect with our Father in our individual personal manner. Whether the wiring is activated through prayer, worship, nature, water, meditation, to freely examine is to strengthen the wonderful, infinite connections. These are things that we must do. Your spirituality was specifically chosen to be here during this dispensation of time. Let's tap into the ultimate possibilities together. Dr. Anise Mastin. What a beautiful, beautiful, well-written piece. We want to thank you, Dr. Anise, for coming on with us tonight. Again, I am Jason Medlock. I'm the host of I'm Woke. And good night to you guys, and we'll see you soon. All right. Good night. Bye now.